You may have heard there's a new alcohol policy that's in effect at the university. This summer, UNC rolled out a new alcohol policy that creates a set of standards for all students, faculty, staff, and guests of the university. The creation of the policy was a collective effort from the Campus Alcohol Task Force, which was comprised of students, faculty, and staff, and also included representatives from your Greek community. We want to make sure that you understand the new policy and what it will mean for your organization. Although not drastically different from the university's previous alcohol policy, there are some changes to be aware of. Here are the biggest points in a nutshell. The policy levels the playing field and holds all students, student organizations, faculty, staff, and guests of the university to the same rules around alcohol use. The policy was created using a public health model, which means it focuses on safety and well-being. The policy includes a medical amnesty clause, which protects students who seek help for those in need. The entire policy can be found at alcohol.unc.edu. We encourage you to read it in its entirety and make sure that you and your chapter members are familiar with it. At the very least, chapter presidents, risk managers, and social chairs should review it. OFSL-CI is here to answer any questions you may have and help you navigate the policy. Okay, so here are some highlights that we think will be of greatest importance to fraternities and sororities. Who does the policy apply to? All students at all times until graduation or separation from the university, both while on campus or off campus when conduct has implications for the university. Essentially, you can think of this as the always wearing your letters clause. Similarly to the way your conduct reflects on your organization, the way you act reflects on the university. You're always representing Carolina. Employees during the duration of their employment, both while on campus or off campus when conduct has implications for the university. As staff members, we are held to the same standards you are when it comes to events with alcohol. Visitors to campus at any time. This clause is similar to guidelines established by your fraternities and sororities, where members are responsible for their guests. Anyone who's visiting the university is expected to adhere to its policies. Where and when does the policy apply? This section of the policy defines the physical locations where students and student organizations are expected to adhere to the policy. As stated previously, you're always representing Carolina, and the consequences of your actions can follow you. Conduct by students on university premises or on the premises of student organizations, as well as conduct by students that occurs elsewhere, may constitute offenses prohibited by this policy if university interests are implicated. That means fraternity and sorority houses, as well as any off-campus properties that are associated with your organization. So, what constitutes a university interest? Basically, the university has a stake in any situation where the conduct of the student or the student organization presents a danger or threat to the health and safety of the student, members of the organization, or members of the local or campus community. Impinges upon the rights or property of others. Unreasonably disrupts or disturbs the academic, working environment, functions, or activities of the university, or its organizations, personnel, or guests. Or the living environment of others, whether on or off campus. Involves the consumption of alcoholic beverages by a student under the legal drinking age, or the provision of alcoholic beverages to a person under the drinking age. Or is detrimental to the educational mission and or interests of the university. The university has a stake in your well-being and making sure that you have an unparalleled educational experience. That means any activity or behavior that could impact your educational experience or anyone else's is one that the university is going to have an interest in. So now that we've established the scope of the policy and its implications, we want to provide an overview of the policy itself. There are 13 provisions in the new alcohol policy, but the long and short of them are this. Do not break local, state, or federal laws regarding the use and or sale of alcoholic beverages. The entirety of the policy can be found in Section 3, Alcohol Policy, points A through M. Here are some other specific things to note for student organizations, in addition to the laws you already know. i.e. no one under 21 may purchase or consume alcohol, no fake IDs, no open containers, and no providing alcohol for those people under 21. Use of common source containers like kegs, punch bowls, loose cases, etc. are prohibited on university premises and may not be furnished at off-campus events that are controlled, sponsored, or otherwise provided by student organizations or university administrative units. Yes, this means your official or unofficial chapter house. Student organizations and university administrative units must adhere to the following. No alcoholic beverages for use on or off campus may be purchased with state-appropriated or federal funds, student activity fees, university collected fees, funds deposited or administered through SAFO, or with any other student organization funds or dues. Additionally, no alcoholic beverages may be purchased for a student organization or its members or guests in the name of or on behalf of the student organization. So no passing the hat. This one should be pretty familiar. No dues, no slush funds, no collective efforts to purchase booze. Student organizations or university administrative units cannot profit from the direct sale of alcoholic beverages, including the collection of a cover charge that defrays the cost of alcohol. Essentially, fraternities and sororities are not taverns and should not be profiting from the provision of alcohol. There's one other important thing to know about the alcohol policy. It contains a medical amnesty clause. Because the health and safety of our community is the most important thing, the university wants to support people who call for help. If you call for help, you can avoid a disciplinary process and potential sanctions. We'll talk about those in a few. The state of North Carolina has a medical amnesty law that provides an exemption from criminal prosecution for the possession or consumption of alcoholic beverages if law enforcement, including campus safety police, become aware of offenses solely because the person was seeking medical assistance for another individual. To be protected by this law, the person calling for help must be acting in good faith that he or she is the first to call for assistance, use his or her own name when contacting authority, and remains with the individual needing medical assistance until help arrives. Similarly, the university is committed to making sure that students who seek help for those in need can do so without fear of getting in trouble. Although the university can't guarantee amnesty from any civil or criminal legal action stemming from the violation of a local, state, or federal law, the university may dismiss disciplinary action for violations of the policy in certain scenarios. The following situations in which a student will be granted amnesty are if the student who seeks medical attention fully cooperates with emergency responders, when a student who is the victim of a crime after consuming alcohol and reports the crime to law enforcement or university officials, when the student who has experienced sexual violence, interpersonal violence, or other violation of the policy on prohibited discrimination, experience harassment or related misconduct, or when a student who calls on behalf of or accompanies an impaired individual and remains with that individual until assistance arrives and fully cooperates with emergency medical responders. So if you're calling for help, you've been the victim of a crime or the victim of sexual violence, or if you're accompanying the student who needs help and you've also been consuming alcohol underage or violated some other section of the policy, don't worry about getting in trouble. Just worry about getting the appropriate help you need in the moment. By now, you're probably thinking that all of this seems really familiar. It should. It aligns with existing guidelines set by many of your national organizations, FIPG, and previous campus policies surrounding alcohol. This new policy, however, also provides a plan for adjudication and response to both students and student organizations that violate the policy. As with any adjudication process, the outcome is for students or student organizations to learn from the experience and continue to grow in a healthy environment that fosters academic and personal success. This policy strives to create that environment and promote the safety and well-being of all members of the university community. You can see the learning outcomes associated with the adjudication process. As stated before, these align with the public health model approach of focusing on wellness and behavior. In the past, only individual students would go through an alcohol conduct process. Now, student organizations are subject to the same adjudicative processes and disciplinary actions and sanctions as individuals. Essentially, student organizations who violate the policy may go through a university process in concert or in addition to a process dictated by their governing council, i.e., your chapter could go through a university process and an investigation by your governing council's judicial board. The process for adjudication is outlined in Appendix C, Adjudication in Response to Student Violations, Section 4, Administrative Action. The entire appendix outlines your rights as a student or a student organization, so please take the time to familiarize yourself with the process. It also discusses possible sanctions for individuals and student organizations. Most of the questions we get as advisors when a group has violated a policy in the past have been, what's our punishment going to be? So we want to let you know what could be on the table in terms of educational and disciplinary sanctions. Individuals who violate the alcohol policy could face educational interventions like alcohol EDU, basics, decision courses, etc., as well as disciplinary sanctions like a warning, probation, suspension, or expulsion. Student organizations may face any of those sanctions or experience the following in conjunction with those sanctions. Educational activities, loss of privileges, like activity restrictions, such as social activities, participation in intramurals, facility use, etc. Group probation, restricted status, which temporarily removes recognition and enjoyment of privileges, or revocation of charter or affiliation, including permanent removal of university recognition if approved by the chancellor. The policy does include an appeals process, and again, we encourage you to familiarize yourself with that as well. This webinar is meant to be a helpful resource for you that provides an overview of the alcohol policy and its implication for student organizations. The policy in its entirety can be found at alcohol.unc.edu. Remember that OFSL is a resource for you, and we can help you understand the policy and implement it. We're also available for consultations, chapter meetings, or to meet with advisors or international headquarters staff. Ultimately, the policy exists to keep you safe and your organization functioning. Remember, individuals and student organizations can be held accountable through the policy. Don't break the law, and seek help for those who need it. If you have any questions, please email us at greeks@unc.edu or call our main line at 919-962-8298. Or stop by and visit us on the first floor of Granville Towers South. Thank you.